This also big piece of analysis that you did at Bloomberg paints this gloomy picture for the UK economy regarding the hit from Brexit. What have you found?
So we looked at sort of the impact of Brexit through a number of angles. There's the sort of classic angle, just looking at the headline impact on GDP, and that's the number you've said there, this £100 billion number, which is essentially that we think the economy is about 4% smaller than it otherwise would have been had it remained in the single market. And we've looked at other angles as well, so the impact on investment, which is well known, the impact on uncertainty has come through and really damaged investment in the UK. Trade as well is a little bit weaker, though it's not quite as weak as we would have expected. You'd expect that to be one of the key channels through which Brexit affects the economy, and of course migration as well. So we've had migration has been weaker, certainly from EU migrants. EU employment is weaker than the trend going into the point at which the UK left the single market. And I think the broad takeaway from this is that the impact of Brexit has come through far quicker than we'd expected. So most forecasters, including ourselves, expected a sort of slow burn shock, if you like, something that affects the economy but over quite a long period of time. But actually, these numbers suggest that it's come through quite a bit quicker. And the risk is that there's more to come, of course. So that's the sort of key takeaway from what we found. And yeah, that note is on the terminal this morning.
Dan, I mean, you basically argue that the economy is 4% smaller than it might have been otherwise. Are there any steps that they can do now to reduce that shock?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, I think what the problem the government's had, and there is definitely some sympathy here, is that you've experienced these two enormous shocks in the interim. So you've had Brexit going on in the background, but we've had the pandemic. And of course, we've had this enormous energy shock as well. So there are these two shocks that the government is having to fight. And I think what's really important now is that the attention turns to sort of making Brexit work. And this analysis that we've put out, it demonstrates that there's quite a long way to go to make things better. And I think the challenge here is that when you leave, you change your relationship with your biggest trading partner, which is the EU. And a frictionless agreement you have with the EU, you have to try and replicate and sort of make up for that in other places. So it is really important that other trade deals are forged in time. But the question really there is whether they can truly compensate. And I think from where we sit, the net effect of this is going to be negative for the economy. But there are steps the government can take, and it is really sort of trying to find ways of compensating for the loss of access to the single market.